As well as the circumference of a circle, we can also be asked to work out the area of a circle. And the formula that we're going to be using is area equals pi multiplied by the radius squared. So radius squared just means the radius times by itself. So what you're going to write at the start of every question is just A equals pi times r squared. And again, like the circumference formula, you don't have to memorise that because you get it given to you in the formula sheet. Like with our previous lesson on revision of area of 2D shapes, our units for area are square units. So it could be millimetres squared, could be centimetres squared, metres squared, or kilometres squared. So just make sure that when you're putting your units down that you put them down as square units. And a nice way to remember that is to think if you're doing pi times r squared, then you need to have squared on your units. For this first example, it's nice and easy because we're being asked to find the area of a circle and we're given the radius. So we don't have to do anything, we can just plug that number 12 right into our formula. So first step is always to write the formula down, so A equals pi times r squared, and substitute our numbers in. So A equals, we're saying pi is 3.14, that never changes. Every single area or circumference question, pi is always 3.14. And we're multiplying that by 12 squared. So you would just do this in your calculator. When you type that in, make sure that you are doing 3.14 times 12 squared and not doing 3.14 times 12 and then squaring the answer. You might find it easier to type into your calculator 3.14 times 12 times 12 if you're using, say, a calculator on your phone or a calculator where the squared button is quite difficult to use if it's not a proper scientific one. So regardless of what way you do that, your answer comes out to be 452.16 square centimetres. Try and make sure that you can get that answer in your calculator, and if you can't, get in touch with me as soon as possible and I can jump on a Teams call and just show you where all the proper buttons are on your calculator. The second example is asking us to find the area of this circle. So because we are given the diameter here, but what we want is the radius to plug into our formula, we have to say if diameter equals 16 millimetres, then the radius and the number that goes into our formula is 8 millimetres. So always make sure that when you're doing one of these questions, you're using the correct number for the question. So if it's for circumference, make sure you're using the diameter, and if it's an area question, make sure you're using the radius. So we'll copy down our formula again, do that for every question, even though it can be quite repetitive. Just now, if we're doing a full exercise of area questions, we need to get into the habit of copying the formula down at the start of every one. So A equals pi times r squared, which is 3.14 times 8 squared. And again, make sure you're comfortable putting that in your calculator, and if you can't find any of the buttons or you don't know where anything is, please get in touch with me so that I can get that sorted quickly. So A equals, when you work that all out, 200.96, and it's square millimetres. So just make sure as well that the units that you're given in the question match up with the units that you're using in your final answer. Okay, and it's that easy. The third and final example for this video is a wee bit more complicated, and it asks us to find the blue shaded area. So you can see we have this square around the outside with a circle inside it, and the blue shaded area is going to just be the difference between the area of the square and the area of the circle. So the first thing that we're going to do is find the area of the square. So we know from our previous lesson that the area of a square is just the length squared. And in this question, the length is all the way along here, and it's 22 centimetres. So 22 squared, which is 484 square centimetres. Now we need to find the area of the circle that's in the middle. So we need to half the 22 to find the radius, because the 22 that represents the length of the square also represents the diameter of the circle. So see, if we went from here all the way across here, it would still be 22 centimetres. It's the same as this length up here. So the radius is 11. So when we substitute in to our formula, we're saying it's 3.14 times 11 squared. And when you put that in your calculator, you get an answer of 379.94, and that's square centimetres. So now we know the area of the square around the outside, and we know the area of the circle on the inside. And what we need to work out is the difference between them, so the shaded area. So the shaded area will just be what you get when you take 379.94 away from 484. And since we're using a calculator for this, we can just do that in our calculator, and it works out that the shaded area is 104.06 square centimetres.